Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals podcast. My name is Dawn, and we are in year 3. Let's go. Super excited for this year. Year number 1 found us doing wonderful interviews with people that were sharing their beautiful stories of vulnerability, of sacrifice, of challenge for us to connect more fully to understand a little bit more about their path. Year number 2 was that personal growth exercise work where we really dug in and did some of the nitty gritty stuff about making ourselves the best versions that we can be in an effort by doing these growth exercises that my wonderful co-host said, yeah, I'll do this with you each week. We embarked on it and then came back and gave the feedback on what we liked, what we didn't like. And year number 3, we are now going back to interviewing and listening to a wonderful guest each week talk about a specific subject that is pertinent to their lives, things that they have walked through. And this is in an effort for us to grow our perspectives around the subject matter, to maybe learn a little bit more about what we might need to know for ourselves personally through the experience of our guest. And this subject today is pretty near and dear to my heart too. This is addiction and recovery that we're going to speak of today. And my guest today is, I know I don't ever believe in anything like accident. There are really no accidents because how I met Irini was totally random. And I believe it's one of those, here you go, drop this in your lap because I needed your information just as much as everybody else. So I met Irini through my husband's work. Irini works on web design, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
We do
she's
marketing and web design and, SEO.
the whole kit and caboodle if you need it. And she's based out of Florida. And we were on a phone call regarding my husband's business. And we just started talking and we realized there was a kindred spirit between the two of us. And I was like, dude, I will you please consider being on the podcast and sharing your information and talking about this important subject? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. And you have a podcast as well, we found out. So can you want to boost your podcast? What's the name of your show?
So our podcast is called Crosstalk Podcast, and it's about addiction and recovery. And we interview people in recovery and they tell their stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we hear all about people's, what happened and, like what happened in their lives, what changed, and then how they live now.
Right. Wonderful. And I think that kind of information is vital, specifically for anyone going through it, but also for the people that are walking alongside those that are in the middle of it. I
Yeah.
think it applies to pretty much across the board. Irini spoke to me about binge and restrictive eating, an eating disorder that she struggled with. And interestingly, a lot of this began for her when you said you were 11 years old. So
Yeah.
let me just stop right there and turn it over to you. I want to hear a little bit about like your journey, your background with eating disorders and kind of your path along that addiction and like where it started for you and kind of what got that ball rolling, if you will.
Sure. So I think that was really my first addiction was food and like binge eating as well as restricting. So it just depended what mode I was in. And that I guess was my addiction. Um, you know, I try to describe it to people who don't understand it as like food noise. It becomes like obsessive thinking. Like, what
Mhm.
am I going to eat? What am I not going to eat? I'm hungry. Is that wrong? I would feel guilty for being hungry. And I don't really know where it all came from. Definitely my family was very healthy. Nothing too crazy, but I was the one who started gaining weight when I was younger. I guess that puberty phase,
Yeah.
and I met a friend of my brother's who went to, and we called it fat camp, but I should call it weight loss camp. But at the time,
Right.
he was like, "You should come with me," and
Right.
I idolized him. So I was like, "Okay, I'm on my way. Like, I'm gonna come with you." And my parents kind of didn't really agree with it, but let me go.
Okay.
And I think that was the journey of kind of like losing weight and yo-yoing and this kind of like back and forth of
Yeah.
dieting. And dieting, as we know, doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And you were young. You were 11.
Yeah. I was 11. It was the summer I turned 12.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that's a very instrumental time, like you talked about with puberty. That's a big time frame for girls, but for boys as well.
Mm.
And changing bodies as it is. And then you have your emotions and all of the hormones that go on top of that. So the way you're looking at your body and the way you are interacting with people combined is a big
Yeah.
deal. It's a
Yes.
huge deal.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that first experience for you, with going to weight loss camp at 11 years old. Did you really feel like you needed that at that point?
I did. I felt, well, yeah, in my mind, I really did. I felt like I was always, I found some, actually, just a side point, I found some journals from back then.
Oh,
And they
wow.
had, like, it was really sad. I
Yeah.
really, like, held that little girl in my heart because it had, like, exercise plans and diets. And I had, I guess, gone on websites. I guess the internet had just kind of, like, come out, and I hadn't a computer. I had gone on websites that were giving you tips on how to be anorexic and bulimic, and
Oh my.
I never did suffer from bulimia, but that's so sad that that's what I was looking at, that's what I
Mhm.
wanted. I wanted someone to show me or tell me how to restrict, and I find that so heartbreaking. So I think
Mhm.
that little girl really did feel like this was the answer, that this
Right.
was gonna help me. However, I don't think that it was now, like, as an adult.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
opened the door to a lot of, poking fun at health and weight loss, and, like, we all joked around. It kind of was this,
Mhm.
you see it in the movies. If you ever see movies about camp, like, everyone jokes around with each other and is like, "Oh, well, we're fat," and da, 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 and it
Yeah.
had that kind of mentality, which is really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanna go back to something that you said specific, kinda
Sure.
to kind of back up a bit. You talked about food noise, because I feel like what you're even describing right now is a lot of extraneous noise,
Yeah.
like a lot of internal dialogue that we are fed through those exterior and those external inputs that we have in our lives. And how do you decipher what is appropriate for you and what is not for you? I think for me, there was a book that I read that actually gave me information on what to do to create a really great bulimia friend for me, you
Uh,
know?
you
And
mean in recovery or?
no, when I was in the heat of my
Oh,
eating disorder, it was like this book gave me a whole other piece of, without, I think I should clarify, without it being a, "Hey, this is how you do it," but it was someone's
right.
experience, and they talked about what they did and how they did it. And I know that
Exactly.
that book wouldn't have made, like, they wouldn't have written that if they knew it would have affected somebody, but I think those, where I happened to be at that point in my existence with my addiction, it was like, "Woo, yeah, give it here, give it here, give me all that information." So being able to filter out that noise and that extraneous information coming at us nonstop. I mean, if we think, and like, I'll name myself, I'm like in my 50s, right? So
Mhm.
here's the point, that internet wasn't a big deal. And you were talking about the internet kind of coming on and finding all of those pieces about how to have an eating disorder and how to follow it to a T and what that looks like. But now I look at the social media and the online presence that the access that we have to so many different things. And I think food noise and that mentality it's so overwhelmingly huge, right?
Yeah.
How do you turn that down? How do you turn that volume down?
Well, I think what I finally realized, and it took a lot to get here. I mean, it took going to full-fledged alcohol and drug addiction and then
Yes.
recovery. So, it took all of that for me to realize that it's an inside job. It's not about the food at all. It's not about the feelings. It's like, it's an inside job. I always equate it to like the mob. Like, it's an inside job,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have to do the work. And I do think that there's a lot of body positivity out there again
Mhm.
now, but I still think that a lot of the stigmas exist and a lot of information is out there in telling people how to restrict, how to be bulimic, little tips and tricks.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's scary because I don't even know how to describe like getting past it, except for the fact that I had to do the work, get sober, connect with a power greater than myself. I know a lot of people think that's really weird and hard to hear. The
Mhm.
concept is almost weird. And if you had told me that before I got sober, that I would be praying and that would help me not want to do drugs or alcohol, I'd be like, yeah, okay, but
Yeah,
now that I have that tool in my toolbox, I'm like, oh my God, the meditation, the
mhm.
prayer, all these things is so helpful, is so important in my life on how I get better and what my, my sobriety, my balance looks like in my life.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that transition because at 11, you're going to weight loss camp. You felt like that was really an important piece for you because of where you were with your body.
Mm.
And you don't really, you can't really pinpoint where that started. When did the next addiction set in for you? When did alcohol and drugs present themselves for you along that path?
So much later in life, actually. I mean, when I was 16, 17, I did drink with my friends and we went out, and I in college I drank, but really the food was the loudest, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I would yo-yo from like 160 pounds to 240 pounds back and forth. And I was distraught. I was really broken up about it.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't find a healthy way, no matter how many nutritionists, no matter how many exercise plans or anything. It was this food noise, right? So
Yeah.
I heard about gastric bypass surgery. And so that was all of a sudden the answer, right? That having that surgery would make me thin. And that was my answer. That was going to solve all my problems.
Mm.
And little do you know, and I know this now, I didn't know it at the time, and they tell you to go see a psychiatrist, to go see a therapist, to go to a nutritionist. I kind of like bullshitted my way through all those things. And I was like
Mhm.
kind of checking off the list, but I didn't really do it. And
Yeah.
now I understand why they tell you to do it, because the minute the food piece was taken away, you're actually restricted. Like you actually cannot eat more. You cannot binge. You cannot
Mhm.
push that envelope. I had to turn to something to numb whatever I was trying to numb. And honestly, I wish I could tell you what that was. I had a
Yeah.
great childhood. I had great parents. Of course there are moments and things, but generally, you wouldn't think that I would have all this pain to numb, but
Yeah.
something wasn't good enough. Something wasn't okay inside of me.
Yeah.
And I had lots of messages that I would give myself, that and being thin will answer all of those messages. And
Right.
that was my thinking. And that's so sick now that I think about it.
But
But
it's reality. I
yeah,
think it's really like you found an answer, and I'm putting the air quotes around it.
mhm, yeah,
It's your answer. I think it's really important to like state this again that when one thing was taken away without addressing that root,
mhm,
something else has to fill in.
yeah,
Because if you're not doing the like I love what you said, it's an inside job. When you're
yeah.
not doing the inside job, the inside work,
Yeah,
where are you?
it's true. So the first thing I would turn to is because I was living in New York City and all my friends would go out and they'd be like, come to dinner. And I'd be like, well, I can't eat.
Mhm.
Like I really couldn't eat more than like half an egg. That's how much fit into my
Wow,
stomach.
wow.
That's what they do to you, which is what I wanted.
Yeah,
Let me just be clear. And so I'd be like, well, why would I come to dinner if I can't eat? I don't want to spend the money. So I would order champagne or
okay.
a vodka soda or something, and I would start drinking. And because my stomach was so little, I would get drunk. And then I was introduced to, actually prescribed medicine that they give to kids with ADHD. And like that would keep me out longer, keep
Mhm,
me going. And it's really sad because that became my new norm. Instead
mhm,
of food, I would numb out with alcohol and then prescription drugs.
mm, mm,
You
mm,
know,
mm.
my dealer, so to say, was a psychiatrist, was a medical doctor, you know,
Right.
and drinking in New York, it's very normalized. It's very normalized to be a social. I mean, but there's a difference between social drinking and actually didn't start off as I never had alcohol in my apartment. I never drank in the morning or during the day or anything. It started off as like nights and weekends.
Yeah, yeah.
And not until my my early 30s, I should say, did it get to be during the day, at home, hiding, and all of that.
So in your 30s when that took over for you, like,
Yeah,
did you
it's a
find yourself
progressive illness.
yeah, like, well, I mean, did you find yourself going, like, "What is happening?" Did you ever question it? Did you ever
Yes.
go, "What's happening?" and then said, "No, it's okay." You know what I'm saying? Like that back and forth struggle?
So I actually clearly remember, and I call it the invisible line. I crossed this invisible line. You
Mhm.
don't know when you're going to cross it. Nobody can tell. Nobody knows. It's not like a planned thing. Like all of a sudden, I've turned into an alcoholic. I mean, I use the word that I was always an alcoholic, but a lot of people don't understand that concept who are
Right,
not in the program.
right.
But I will tell you that I had lived in Peru for a couple of years. And when I came back heartbroken. I had fallen in love and all this stuff. And I came back and I remember going to my brother's apartment and bringing a bottle of red wine, and he didn't drink. And I remember slamming it on the table and going, well, I guess I'm an alcoholic. And I remember that so vividly. And I was like, I didn't care. I was like, I thought it was like not cool, but I was just like, whatever, I drink wine now.
Mhm,
That's my
mhm.
personality.
You're declaring it. You're like, almost like, I'm owning it, and
Yeah.
this is my friend, and
Yeah.
let
Well,
me introduce you to my friend.
kind of. And I was finishing on my own, like a bottle of wine at night. That's not normal.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people do it, and I know it's been normalized, but that
right.
isn't normal.
Yeah.
Drinking a
There's this
whole bottle of wine on your own is not
it's
normal,
not normal. No,
It's
no.
excessive.
Yeah, yeah. What do you feel now when you see other people potentially around you? Like, you said it is pretty normalized, and you're not wrong. It is a
No.
pretty normalized situation. When you hear someone saying that now, what is your immediate thought? Does that trigger you? Does that bring you back
No.
into your stuff?
I actually can be around it. A lot of people can't. I can be around it. I can be around weed. I can be around alcohol. I'm not around it often though, right?
Yeah.
Like most of my friends are sober. I live in a very recovery centric community. I surround myself with people that are in the program.
Mhm.
However, I still have my normie friends, and I still have, I live in a building we are a community. We have a beach club. Like I go downstairs and hang out, and they're older, right?
Mhm.
Retired, and they're like drinking their wine and enjoying their life, and they don't have a problem.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a big difference between a problem and just someone who likes to enjoy themselves. And sometimes it's a fine line.
Mhm.
Um, Typically, I don't let it get to me. It doesn't bother me. When I see someone that I'm like, ooh, they might have a problem, it's still not my place to say it, right?
Right, right. But
So
it
I
doesn't
kind of,
it doesn't, like, trigger you and put you
no,
back into your
I very much can recognize that I am different. So you drinking a glass of wine, I don't want just a glass of wine. I want the whole
Mhm.
bottle,
Yeah,
and then I want to go out. And then
yeah.
I want to maybe get on a plane and go
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah, yeah,
like I want,
you recognize it now, like,
yeah.
that's a big part of that recovery
Yeah.
for you.
And it became recreational drugs in my 30s. It
Yeah,
became like, I don't know if how detailed you want me to go into, but like ecstasy and stuff. I mean, you
mhm,
can, I guess,
yeah,
edit it out. But that was the thing. And then I went deep, like
mhm,
deep. And
mhm,
and I was pretty high functioning. Yes and no. At the end, I wasn't high functioning, but until some point, I was able to manage it all and still work and get a paycheck.
mhm.
And I actually got a paycheck till the end. I actually went into treatment and called my boss. I was told I had to call my boss to tell her because I disappeared. I had to tell her what happened. And I called her and I said, hey, I just wanted to, let you know that I'm in a rehab in Florida.
Oh,
And she's like,
wow.
rehab? She's like, you had a problem? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, I thought you were just anorexic.
Oh, wow,
That was her
Irini.
comment to me. Yeah, because I hadn't been, I see you stop eating at some point. Right.
Yeah.
Or I should say I stopped eating at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your absolute turning point? Though going into recovery, did someone tell you, "Hey, like
Yeah.
an intervention, let's do this," or did you get to a point, like I know for me, I had a specific incident that happened and I was like, "Whoa, that's a life or death situation that I just put myself in."
Mm.
And I reached out for like 1% help. But that 1% help was like a huge godsend.
Were
It
there
was
conditions to your 1% help? Like, I'll do this, but I won't do that.
Oh my God, totally. I
Yeah.
remember sitting in an office with this woman and sitting in an hour-long appointment. The first 30 minutes, I was like, I just need you to tell me to do this, 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 and this. I just need accountability. That's all I need.
Right.
And I can get a hold of it. And then she sat there and listened. And the next 30 minutes, she just went, okay, honey, let's talk. And she was the most loving, non-condescending,
Right.
very gracious person. And if I talk too much about her, I'll start crying. She's like my angel. She saved me. She really
Yeah.
saved me.
Yeah.
So thank God for those people that step in. So tell me a little bit about how that happened for you.
Yeah. So actually, the woman I work for, who we grew up together in this, her brother was the one that took me to camp, actually.
Okay. Oh,
Funny
wow.
enough.
It's a
It's
full circle moment.
literally full circle.
Yeah.
And she saw me at a friend's funeral because where I'm from a place called Tenafly, New Jersey. It's North Jersey, very affluent area. And there are a lot of people that die of overdose and
Mm.
death. People think of alcoholics and drug addicts as like people bums on the street, but they're living in like 12,000 square foot mansions and
Yep,
have
totally.
their medical doctors prescribing their drug of choice, and it's scary and it's sad. So
Right.
a friend of mine had killed himself, and I went to the funeral, and I was out of my mind,
Mhm.
drunk, high, the whole nine, and I made a scene. I really embarrassed myself, and I regret it so much because people were grieving
Right.
and I took the attention from that. And I do regret that a lot. But those friends went to see my parents and they said, Irini's going to die. Period. Ends. Like she's on her last, and I was
Yeah.
gray skinned. I hadn't eaten in a long time. I mean, I would have had to look at my ATM to see my ATM card to see when I last ate because I was not eating daily. And
Mm.
I know it's just so crazy now to think of
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And so I went back. I got into a fight with them because they were all like, Irene, you have to leave. You're causing
Mm.
a scene. And I was like, how dare you? I caused an even bigger scene.
Come
And I
on.
left. And I drove to Brooklyn from New Jersey and I just proceeded to go into an abyss for 3 days. Finally, I reemerged and I went to my apartment in Manhattan and I was crying and shrieking at my ceiling, like, God, help me. Like, why am I like this? Why do I do this? And the next day was my intervention.
Wow.
Literally the next day, I walked into an interventionist who is a client of mine, actually.
Okay.
And I walked into my intervention and it was my friend whose brother had just died. Instead of, she was there for me,
Oh my God.
Yeah,
What?
it was people. My sister flew in from London, they all wrote letters. My brother couldn't come, but he was there in spirit, and
Yeah.
by phone, I think he had written a letter and everything. And I said, yes. They were like, you have to, there's a plane in 20 minutes or there's a plane in, 3 hours. And I go,
Yeah.
I need to shower. Like I hadn't showered in days. I was like, I think I
Yeah.
need to shower first. But that was my only condition. I left my keys, my wallet, everything on the table. I didn't take a card with me, which I regretted later. Nothing,
You
and
were
I,
ready. You
I,
were ready.
I was ready.
Oh,
Listen, I was ready to get sober, but I honestly didn't realize all the work that was going to go into it.
yeah. Yeah.
I
I
thought
think you get to a point where you're so exhausted with what's happening and the day to day that you are holding up. Like the
Mhm.
things that the scaffolding that is you, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Holding that in place is so just it's so much. It's tiring, it's exhausting. But that's a great point that you said. Like
Yeah.
you want to be well, but boy, you peel back, you open up door number 1.
God, I can't with the doors. There's more. There's still more doors. Like,
I'm
please.
sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's not you.
Yeah.
It's life.
Doors, there's
The
doors.
onion never ends. The onion is like the endless onion.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
is.
What were the first steps in your recovery when you arrived at your recovery?
So I was told that I had to get a sponsor, and I was like,
Mhm.
what's that? I didn't know what that was. And they
Yeah.
were like, you're gonna have to go to a meeting. And I was just like, okay. Like I was like, okay, no problem. I could do that.
Yeah.
I went to a meeting and this woman picked me up, and she is my sponsor to this day. She actually came over last night and we are good friends as well, like at this point, and
Mhm.
she was gentle and loving and hugged me to health. But the place I went to, which I'm now on the board of,
Okay.
this rehab center, this treatment center, they were not easy. They were not loving and hugging and all of that. They don't do this anymore because now it's trauma informed therapy. And so they don't do this anymore, but they used to be harsh. Like
Mhm.
they did not sugarcoat the fact that you have a problem and you need
Yeah.
to get help. And I hated it. I was angry and obstinate and argumentative. I did not take the feedback, but I did listen to my sponsor. So on one side, I was that. And then on the other side, I was like, but I'll do this. I won't do that,
Okay.
but I'll do this.
Conditions. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then finally I started to break down, and they broke me down and broke me down, and I started to listen,
Yeah.
not fully, but I started to listen, and I started to be a bit more willing, I guess,
Yeah.
to
And
do
do you,
the
well,
work.
how long was it into that point where you gave up the bargaining in your head and for where you were
It
and
was
you
2
just
months in.
2 months?
Yeah. It
Oh
was 2 months in, and it was
my
because they put me in the center of 2 groups.
god.
So it was
Okay.
like 30 people in a room in a circle, and I was in the center on a chair. I wasn't allowed to speak, and everyone went around and said how they experienced me.
Oh,
It was I
Irini.
know, it was horrific. However, and you can never do that to someone now. I think that that's
Yeah.
probably the worst thing you could do to someone, and I probably needed therapy to from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it
But
was
the
the
idea is I understand the background for it.
Well, I didn't see myself that way. I thought I was so nice and fun and sociable and all, and I had friends. So I didn't ever, but everyone went around and was like, you're difficult. You don't listen. You're selfish. You are mean. And I couldn't believe it. I was like blubbering and I couldn't believe that they were talking about me.
Yeah.
I was this broken woman who just because I was so angry and sad with myself, I was doing that to other people. When people are like
Mhm.
mean and you're like, ooh, they must have some issues, or it
Mhm.
was that. I was this kind of like bitchy
Mhm.
woman. And it was because I was so sad and I was
Yeah.
so hurt and so angry. Like I
Mhm.
think anger is the overarching theme that was going on for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it. And I think too,
Yeah,
when you're angry and sad with yourself, how you emote that naturally because
100%.
that's all that you know how to feel at that point. Did you ever get to the point, or can you explain when you got to the point of understanding what that anger and sadness was for you? Maybe the root of that, or maybe it's something that's still evolving because, like you say, recovery I don't think it stops. It doesn't
No,
stop.
it
It
doesn't.
cease to exist. Like uncovering the layers.
Yeah, and I don't want to discourage someone from doing it because the work is incredible and the harder it is, the better your life becomes. Like the
Amen.
more hurdles, you're like I was just about to curse, but like I can do this. Like
Yeah.
wow, like I did it. Like this year was very hard for me, but I got past it. I did it and I feel so much better that I didn't give up. I didn't drink. I didn't do any drugs. I had a great year. I handled it well. It was not a
Right.
great year, but I handled it well. But what I think is really important is that when you're angry with yourself, you do have to unpeel those layers because
Mhm.
until you do, you're going to be angry with the world. And
Right.
it's going to come out in traffic. It's going to come out when you're around people. It's going to come out to service staff or whatever. It's going to come out to the people you work with, your coworkers. My
Right.
coworkers got a lot of it when I first got sober. I was having A lot of anger, and as I was getting better, the more you work on it, the more it comes up because you're
Right.
bringing up, it's like Pandora's box. Like you open
Right.
this and you're like, shit, there's more.
Yeah. Yeah. You're unearthing stuff.
Yeah. And so the first 3 years was a lot of unearthing and a lot
Mm,
of, thank God for the people around me and my boss and
mm.
patience of other people. But, I'm very lucky. I have amazing people in my life, but I'm 100% believer in talking about it,
Yeah.
letting people know where you're at, and getting support, like having a really good support group. We don't do this alone. That's the truth. No matter what it is, whether it's a shopping problem, whether it's an eating disorder, whether it's gambling, whatever it may be, because these process addictions are almost harder than drugs and
Mm,
alcohol. Drugs and alcohol, it's simple, it's black and white.
right. You can live without that. You can absolutely
Yeah.
have a life without it.
And you can see it's clear, like, I don't drink. That's it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no, I drink a
Period.
little bit, right?
Yeah.
But you have to eat.
Right.
So you have to shop. I mean, we live in, unless you really don't shop, I mean, that's impossible.
Right. Right. But there's points where you really have to uh, really fix your relationship with
Yeah.
those experiences.
And really I think the number one thing is awareness.
Mhm.
And I think that's what that group did for me, is it made me aware. And it was like, it was this mirror that was literally like put in front of my face. And it was like, take a look at this because it's not
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah.
And it made me want to change. I remember I used to smoke cigarettes, and I went back to my room that night and I was like, I smoked like one after the other, like the whole pack. And I just looked up at the sky and I said, oh man, like I really have to change everything about myself.
How scary.
And
How scary.
it was scary, but it was almost like relieving because I
Oh,
was like, it was like a final surrender. It
yeah.
was like, all right, I'm letting go of what I'm trying to hold on to. And I'm
Yeah.
just gonna, I want to get better.
Yeah, it's almost liberating to you at a certain piece, you
It is.
know? And
Yes.
I'm so glad you said that. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing the work or knowing that you can be well, but understanding the work that goes into it. Because
Yeah.
I think too, somebody asked me a couple months ago, like, if you could go back and not have your addiction, would wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you totally not do that so that you wouldn't have to have gone through all that stuff along the way? I'm like, I would have changed my react versus respond, but I also wasn't really me
Right.
either. Like I was something different. I
Yeah.
like there was another person, if you will, driving my bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't
Absolutely.
me. And until I figured out what was at the root of me and what that looked like and what that meant for me, I mean, and it took work to do that, but it was extremely rewarding on the other side to be able to go, like you said, it's very almost relieving to
Yeah.
go, "Thank God, here's the surrender." But how much do we struggle with
Yeah.
letting ourselves just surrender? I mean, big time.
Well, you want to protect it, right? It served you. It served us. Something we needed, that coping mechanism in our life. And then for me, it was the food. And then later on with the alcohol and the drugs, at some point it was fun. At some point I
Mhm,
enjoyed it, right?
mhm,
At some point I was traveling the world. I was a chef. I was doing this, I was doing that. And it was part of my culture, so to say, right?
mhm. Yeah,
And so I don't regret it at all.
yeah.
But I wish I didn't fight so much when I was getting better. Like I feel like I could have sped up the anger process if I just gave in sooner,
Yeah, yeah.
But I made it hard on myself, but it is so much more satisfying.
Yeah. Tell me about the therapies that were most helpful for you in recovery for you, the communities that you surrounded yourself with. And you spoke a lot so far about the community and the people that surround you.
Yeah.
And that's such a vital piece. I know I found that myself as well. And when I don't have that for one season or another, it really brings up
Mhm.
triggers. And
Oh
then
yeah.
it makes me go, "Ooh, okay, don't like this. The steering wheel is going this direction instead of this direction." And it makes me have to really refocus, which I guess you could call that like that's part of your process. It's part of your path. It's a
It
gift
is.
as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
But if you had to say for your experience, what were the best therapies, the best communities that you had privy to?
So I think in the beginning, the group therapy was really important because hearing other people talk about what they go, I thought I was the only one for so long. I thought I was the only it was so easy for everyone else, but it wasn't for me.
Mm,
And I was I wasn't I was in a victim mode, right? Like, oh, I'm the victim, right? And then I think it was the awareness of, so knowing other people are suffering from the same thing and they've gotten better. A 12-step program is so important, I
yeah.
think. And I did Eating Disorders Anonymous, which they don't have in every city, I think, but there's a ton of stuff online, right? And I think also, a friend group, a supportive friend group that are real friends, not like the kind of friends that you just have lunch with, but the kind of friends that you'll call out and they'll call you out. You're
Mm,
like, what's
love
up
that.
with you? What's up with
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Um, and I think also, I have a therapist.
Yeah.
We've done different things like EMDR therapy, and it has unearthed memories that I shoved away and things that I didn't really remember about my life. So in a way, I do recommend it, and in a way, I don't, because sometimes I'm like, maybe it was better if I didn't remember.
Yeah. No, I totally associate with that because
But
you're like, when you know it, then you got to deal with it.
I know
You got to
exactly.
unpack it.
But I do think that it was hiding in my body through, I think that those little things that I finally remembered were my
Mhm.
eating, were why I found food,
Yes. Yeah.
because they were things when I was younger. And it's funny because I went to a recent program called the Hoffman Process. That's the day spoke, was the day I
Yeah.
was on my way there. And really, it's interesting because we develop all of these patterns and these habits from a young age, sometimes not maliciously, they're just the way we've reacted. A
Yeah.
5-year-old is egocentric. They think it's all about them. Parents
Yeah.
get divorced, it's their fault, all these
Right.
little
Right.
things. So you learn these maladaptive traits, and it's kind of like flipping the switch. You got to change it up and really learn how to be different and live authentically and kind of change the script around.
Yeah. It's reframing everything
Mhm.
and being in a place where you have the support to be
Mhm.
able to actively do that reframing and do it safely for you.
Yeah, and the reframing for me, it was part of like DBT and CBT.
Mhm.
If you're familiar, just even changing the way I verbalize things,
Yeah.
and also knowing that like you can have two or three feelings at the same time. I could be extremely happy for you and mad at you at the same time,
Yes.
or I can be feeling, depressed and nervous and excited. There's so many different things you can feel at once. And I think that knowing that's okay.
I think that's a beautiful piece of information right there. I don't think many of us think that direction. It's when we feel a certain thing, we're like, that's it. There's
Yeah,
no room for anything else to exist in that
exactly.
space. And that's a misconception. Tell me, where does spirituality come into play for you with all this? Because I know you were talking about that moment of surrender when you were like, God, like take this away. And
Yeah,
now knowing that when you get triggered, what would you do without meditation, without prayer, without those practices that you have in
right.
place?
And let me say, I'm not very religious. I don't go to church. I'm not opposed. I grew up in a Christian household. I'm Greek Orthodox. My parents never forced me. My mom wasn't really into it. My dad was very religious. So there was like those opposing kind of sides. I'm very spiritual in the sense that I believe there's something in the universe. I believe that we have a higher purpose. I believe that you have to stop fighting and trust the process, that there is a divine beyond, whether or not you're supposed to fast or do all these other little rules that come with religion. I don't know, and I think that everyone can believe what they want to believe and what works for them. What works for me is actually meditating and journaling and prayer. And, I have crystals, like I do all that stuff
Yeah.
too, because I like it and it makes me happy. And it puts us, I do anything that makes me happy. I'm still the type of person, I'm selfish. I help people because it makes me feel good.
Right. Right.
And,
Yeah.
and that's a big part of my spirituality too. I believe that I would be squandering what I have if I didn't help other people. And I do believe that's what God, the universe, whatever you call that, wants for me, is to help other people.
Totally agree. And we're robbing other people of that if we're not doing that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? We're not living. We're not being our authentic self if we're not giving each other those connections that we all deserve. Like we all
yeah.
deserve that connection.
There's a magic when you, especially in Alcoholics Anonymous, let's say, there is a magic when you take a woman through the steps and show her how to do things, how to live life the way you have, right? All you can do is share your experience,
Yeah.
and then you see that kind of spark change in them, and they go from this very hopeless, sad shell of a person to a very hopeful, happy person. And
Yeah.
the change is very vivid.
Yeah.
It's you can really see it. And when you see that in someone, nobody can say that doesn't make them happy. It does
Right.
something to your soul.
Yeah. What do you think that piece is that attributes to that change? Like when you see that shift that you're just talking about in someone, when you see that click, that aha moment, what do you think? And I love that you said too, like you're basing this on your experience. This is
Right.
this is based on where you walk. This is based on where I've walked. Like what I would say could be different from you.
Yeah.
But where do you feel that piece is that attributes to that shift for yourself, for maybe other people, for the people that you've witnessed?
I think that when you've been through hell, right? For me, I almost died. When I got to detox, I needed a blood transfusion. They were like, "How are you still?" They couldn't understand how I was still alive. And when you've been torn down so much, and there's then like, I've built this life for myself. I'm happy most days.
Mhm.
And then I see someone else so broken and so sad and on the brink of death. And then that flip, it's magic because you save someone's life. I mean, it's really that serious nowadays. It's
Yeah.
no longer, just, oh, they're alcohol. Like it's these days you die,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really bad out there. And I don't
Yeah.
know what they've done, why it's where, fentanyl, all this stuff gets in the way. But I think for me, that switch is like a magical spark. Like I help save someone's life.
Mhm.
And they in turn will hopefully save other people's lives. And it becomes like an effect.
Right. It's that hope. It's almost like you're giving them like, "Hey, let me toss you this lifeline.
Yeah.
You are deserving of happiness. You are deserving of stepping out. Like, just let me hand you my hand and
Yeah.
come on up out of the basement because the basement sucks ass. You don't need to sit in the basement anymore. It's dark
Yeah.
and dreary, and you've been putting yourself in the corner over there
Mhm.
for way too long. So, let me reach out. Let me give you
Yeah.
this piece of hope." Yeah. And I think too, when
Beautiful.
we can be that for someone else, yeah, that helps us. That continues to help our recovery along the way.
Absolutely. I tell people, the girls I work with, I'm always like, I'm telling you because I'm telling it to myself. Because
Yes.
as you said, when you get pulled out. So for me, I call recovery like a wave. It ebbs and it flows. Like
I
there's
love
high
that.
tide and there's low tide.
Mm,
And, sometimes I'm disconnected and I'm not meditating and I'm not praying and I start to feel it.
yeah.
And I have to kind of pull myself back to the center.
Yeah.
And I think that that awareness that we gain is really important in gauging that, in like riding the wave, but coming back to center.
Mhm. I love that when you said that, the high tide and the low tide. And we don't like, I think too, we can put so much pressure on ourselves in general.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then addiction puts pressure on ourselves as well. But if you think about the recovery process and where you are now, the high tide and the low tide, you were being so authentically honest with yourself by saying, I'm not always going to exist in high tide. I'm not always going to exist in low tide.
Yeah.
I'm ebbing and flowing between the things. What are the tools and the things that I have learned along my process to help me find that equilibrium, that balance point? And I know that it's not possible for me to stay status quo. It's just not how
Unfortunately.
humans are. You know, I
It's
wish, but
funny. And it happens in like every 3 years, I have a little bit of this like, I need to do something
mhm.
to enlarge my spiritual self, whether it's a retreat, whether it's throwing myself back into service work, whatever it is. Every 3 years, I feel this little pull that I need to do, peel another layer of the onion. And as
Yeah,
hard as it is, I come out the other side feeling so much better,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So it's worth it. It's worth
Well,
every second.
it's evolving and it's growing. And it's that what that tells me is that your recovery is really working,
Yeah, I
you
hope
know?
so.
Yeah. I mean, it's working in an effect that obviously, like the first thing you learn in recovery is how not to do your addiction. Right. But
Right.
then all the other stuff happens, the whys and the what the roots are and all those other things. Learning about that is that's where the onion layer peeling is like bleh.
Mhm.
It's just
Uh-huh,
a
yeah.
lot, right?
The first day I got there, I turned around to the therapist and I go, "I don't know why I'm like this." And he said to me, "Well, does it really matter why you're like this? So it's we have to fix it."
Oh my
And I
God.
hated him, of course. But,
I would have to. I
years
know.
later, I did thank him, but he was
Yeah.
right because at the time, I wouldn't have been able to tackle you can't tackle it all at once.
Yeah.
You know, you're only given what you can handle.
Yeah.
And so step 1 was remove the substances.
Yeah.
3 years into my recovery was when I really tackled my eating disorder. It was still
Mhm.
serving me to binge eat. It was still serving me in early
Mhm.
recovery, and I was really hard on myself about it, and now I look back and I think, "I needed that. I needed that to stay away from the drugs and alcohol. Good, bad, whatever it is, that
Yeah.
was my truth. That was what I needed."
Yeah. And that's what I told my friend that asked a couple months ago, like, would you redo this? I was like, I would react differently, respond
Mhm.
differently, but I understand that me having that best friend, that ED, that eating disorder best friend,
Right.
tagging along, hanging on my backside, was protecting me from something that I was not ready to unpack yet, and I wasn't ready to go into. And then when I told completely follow the whole line of there's a higher order of things, totally, right? There's a
Mhm.
universal flow, and the surrender part is a big deal of it. When that opening came, which it did ultimately, and when that appeared, it was like, okay, now we're ready to do some work.
Yeah.
But before that, it would have killed me. I wouldn't have been emotionally ready to handle it. I wouldn't have been physically ready to handle it. I was not ready to, give my best friend the finger and say, "Get the hell out of my car." Like,
Yeah.
I was like, "Let's go party. Let's go do it."
Yeah.
But I think until we are at that place where we are so, "I can handle this," and you don't ever really know when that is, and that's another piece of surrender. You gotta just
Right.
be, in the flow of what's happening and
It's
trust the
hard,
process,
it's hard, it's hard,
right?
you know? Yeah, and sometimes when you're in it, when you're struggling, it feels like it's never gonna end, and it feels like there is no hope.
Mhm.
But ride the wave, like, that's really, just
Mm.
call someone, talk about it. I am a firm believer in, like, talk about it.
Yeah.
Call friends, say, "I'm really struggling right now." Earlier this year, I lost my father, and it was really hard. He was
Mhm.
my best friend. I talked to him every night, and
Mhm.
I didn't think, like I didn't first of all, I didn't think I would be able to stay sober through that. Years ago when I got sober, I was like, "Well, if my dad dies or if I get cancer, then
Yeah.
I'll probably drink again." But I didn't, and honestly, I didn't want to, but it was painful.
Mhm.
I didn't wanna drink. I knew intellectually, I knew that that would not help the situation. It wouldn't bring him back. It wouldn't make me feel better. It would actually probably make me go worse into
Right.
more depression.
Right. Tell me what if there's maybe a couple takeaways here, what the discoveries were that you had along the way about yourself personally through the addiction, through from age 11 to where you are now. in all the different pieces. Is there anything that stands out that's more dominant in terms of something you didn't really know about yourself that you went, "Oh, wow, that's surprising," or, "Oh, wow, you know what? I handled that. I can do that. I'm more
Right.
capable than I gave myself credit for."
I think it goes back and forth. I still think I'm very hard on myself. For some reason, I hold myself to this like I should be the Energizer Bunny and never stop moving.
Yeah.
But yet I'll then crawl into bed and be like, I'm done, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
But I think that I'm okay. Like I can do it. I can get through this. I'm pretty strong. And I know that when I put my mind to something, I'll do it,
Mhm.
but I have to want it.
Mm.
I have to want it. I have to be ready to surrender. I have to be ready to flow.
Yeah, that's a mic drop moment for me right there. You have to want it.
Yeah, you
You
have
really
to
do.
want it.
You
I
really
tell
do.
people that, and it's harder now. Before, I got sober right before fentanyl was on the market, and I
Mm.
would tell these girls when I would help them, I would be like, "Listen, if you're not ready, you need to go back out and come back when you are, because you're wasting your own time until you have that gift of desperation,
Oh,
you're
wow, yeah.
you're wasting your time."
I'm writing that down, the
Say
gift of
that to myself.
desperation.
Well,
That's so
and you've
true.
gotta be careful, you can't tell people that anymore, that thing that they used to say in AA, "Go do more research and come back," because
Yeah,
unfortunately, people are dying.
yeah, yeah.
There is no it's really a chance you take telling someone, like, if you're not ready, so it's kind of like there's this book called Drop the Rock, and
Okay.
it's basically about faking it till you make it. Like, it's like, just fake it till you make it, and that's kind of what I was doing in the beginning,
Mhm.
and, like, I wanted it, but I didn't wanna put all the work into it. Like, I wanted it to be easy. I want
Right.
everything to be easy. I would love
Right.
it if, someone could, do it all for me.
Right, right, exactly.
Right, but, it takes work, you have to want it,
Mhm.
and, you have to be ready to fight.
Mm. Yeah,
It's just not
yeah.
easy.
The gift of desperation, just like when you said that just gave me chills. I think that's a very profound statement. I think that so many people in their active addiction have to get to before they can fully surrender.
Yeah.
But I also believe that those 1% pieces are enough. Like
Mhm.
1% showing is enough for you to make that step and for you to go, I'm ready to surrender just this much. I don't know what it looks like, and all the conditions that we attach to it,
Yeah.
because I'm smiling and kind of grinning about it because I know, yeah, like, okay, yeah, I get what you're talking about.
Right.
And I'll do this and this and this and this and this. So I'll give you what you believe is happening, but what I really know is happening, which we really do, like, come on.
No, we don't know.
We don't know. Like,
But we
we don't
think we
know.
do.
Yeah. It's the illusion of control. Like, it's all
Yeah.
control. It's we
And
just
it is, it's all about control, right? We try to
Mhm.
hold on to what we can and what we can control. And when we can't, that's hard,
Mm.
It's nobody wants to concede, nobody wants to give up their control.
No, no. I don't know anybody that feels comfortable with backing down in that way,
Yeah.
especially then. And I mean, listening to you talk, I mean, you're an A-type driven personality. When you are high functioning with an addiction, anybody that is high functioning with an addiction, which everybody I think that I've known that has been through something like that has had those big elements in their life where it's like you just continue to drive, just continue to drive, just
Yeah.
continue to drive. Yeah.
Yep.
I do wanna address what you like the now in terms of you you went through recovery, like you said, right before fentanyl became what it
Yeah.
is now and where, what it's doing to our communities. How does that affect where you are now in terms of helping or sponsoring or mentoring anyone that may be in that position? Like, what are some of the changes or the specific things that you would say to somebody that may be dealing with that kind of addiction?
Sure. And it's very different from my addiction. I never was into opiates. I never did pain pills. Like, that just wasn't my thing. So sometimes it's hard, but I would say that when I was in early sobriety, if someone told me, "Oh, I take Suboxone," or do you know what that is?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, or I do this or I do that. Like, it's called medically assisted treatment, right? I would be like, well, then you're not sober. And I was on some sort of
Mhm.
high horse.
Yeah.
And now I don't believe that anymore. I do think that it looks different for everyone.
Right.
Like just like when I had my eating disorder and I had to describe what acting out meant to me. What acting out means to me may not be the same as what acting out
Mhm.
means to you, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that sobriety does look different for everyone, and being more accepting of that and less rigid about these rules around it, I
Yeah.
think is definitely somewhere where I've being more compassionate for people.
Yeah.
As I said, the treatment center I went to was very like, oh, you're bad, you're this, you're that.
Mhm.
They build you up afterwards, but they really break you down first. And
Yeah.
I don't agree. I don't fully agree with that anymore. I think there's a happy medium, and you can hold people accountable, kind of be a little strict, but at the same time, do it with love and do it with compassion and understanding.
Yeah, I think that was a big turning thing for me where I saw the most benefit in my therapy was having someone really scoop me up and be like, "Hey, I can't do this for you, and that's not my job. So I'm
Right.
gonna be authentic and real with you, and I'm gonna be very honest with you, but I'm also gonna love you." And I think you said it earlier, hug you through it. You know,
Yeah,
I'm gonna hug
absolutely.
I'm gonna hold you through this.
But you got to do it. Like I can't do it. And sometimes I want it more than people. I'm like, oh, but you should,
Oh, wow.
and it's kind of like I can't want it more than you.
Oh, wow, yeah. Boy,
And I can't, you just can't. They have to want it. The
it's
person you're
so
helping has to want it.
it's so sad though when you see that, how like, where do
It's
you go?
heartbreaking. Oh, it's
Mm,
heartbreaking. But that's where like being an empath and codependent and working on all those things comes into place. Cause I used to get in my car and rush and try to fix and do that. And my therapist was like, you can't do that. That's going to kill you at some point. I
right.
didn't understand that concept, but working on that codependency and realizing that like I can't help everyone and I
Mhm.
can't do it for you.
Mm.
As
Gosh,
much
that's
as
such a
that
big piece.
kills me, it kills
Mhm.
me. I'm like, let me fix it.
Yeah, yeah. So on that same kind of vein, what would you say to someone that may be stuck today in either addiction or in a setback during recovery or contemplating recovery? Or maybe even a community that knows they have someone, a loved one, a friend, a coworker that really needs this. What would be your insight, your information that you could give to maybe help them turn the car a different direction?
I think that talking about it with them, it's so hard because it depends on the situation and the age,
Yeah,
right? Because in the
right.
end of the day, when some 18-year-olds, they don't want to hear it. I wouldn't have wanted to hear it. I was 34, it was kind of
Right.
like I did it. It was time.
Yeah.
But I think that just letting people know that you're there for them. There's a lot of information out there, maybe a 12-step meeting, maybe a treatment, maybe just
Mhm.
introducing them to someone who has recovered, someone who can kind of get to their level, because it's really when you're in that position, someone who hasn't experienced what you've experienced, you're going to say to them, you don't get it, like you don't understand me. But
Yeah.
if you present to them someone who does get it and did get it and has gotten better, then you're kind of in a that they have the advantage over you.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how those communities around you helped support you in your whole process when you were starting recovery, when you were in recovery, where you are now. Because
Yeah.
I think it's really helpful for people to know, like, this is what this could like. Obviously, every situation is different, right?
Right.
Depending on, like, I love that you said that about the age. It's you really have to take that into effect. Talk
Yeah.
to a health professional about what that might look like. But
Absolutely. And also with mental illness, like if someone is
mm,
suicidal and everything, that is, you can be there for them, you can listen to them, you can kind of like that's what the suicide hotline is, right? It's just someone
right.
on the other end being an ear for you, and you can hold space for them. But there's only so much you can do until you have to turn it over to a professional
Yeah.
or a facility that might be able to give them a higher level of care.
Right, right.
You know? So I
So
think that being discerning of a situation.
Yeah, that's a really big piece. Thank you for saying that because I think it's obviously none of it is one size fits all. I mean, we are all such unique and complex
Yeah,
individuals, and the different things that make up our addictions, the different things that have made up why it is that we are the way we are, or that we reacted and went that
yeah,
direction versus another direction.
yeah.
I always think it's interesting because in group therapy, it would be really, I really had to step back out of this judgment place because, like, I would hear someone tell their story and I'm like, dude, you're like, that bothered you or that caused you to do
Right.
this. But who am I to judge? Because I can say the same thing about me and they could be saying, really?
Well,
What?
it's like
That
there could
led you
be,
to that?
well, it's two sides of it too. And then you can say also, like there was a girl in my group who had a serious sexual assaults throughout her life. And I felt like, how can I share my trauma? How can I say that I have trauma when her trauma is so much worse, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
comparing is just
Yes. Yeah.
useful, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
We used to
hard. That's
refer
the
to
one
that.
thing.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying that's the one thing in group therapy that is hard, and is the comparing and contrasting. But then things that we're all going to do that. We're all going to be we judge others because we judge ourselves. And no
Yeah.
matter how healthy you get, there's still going to be a little bit of that. We can't, unfortunately, there's no perfect.
Yeah. You can't turn that, you can't equalize that completely out of the equation. You
No.
can turn it up or down depending upon your situation. You have like a
Absolutely.
choice, but it's not that's great. It's not going to go away. So it's how you react to it. It's how you respond to it really.
100%.
We used to talk about lowercase t's and
Yeah,
uppercase,
little
right?
T, big T. Yeah.
Little T, big T in terms of trauma.
Yeah.
And that comparison piece about, oh my God, like that happened to them. And here I am going, my trauma looks so much different and so much smaller than what like, I don't know how I would be even
Right.
walking this earth. So that
But the
comparison
truth
piece,
is our body doesn't know the difference. It's our intellect
yes,
that knows the difference. Our bodies respond to trauma the same way. So just because I know that one trauma is not as big as the other one, my body doesn't. And my body will pass that trauma on to a child or react a certain way and cause the same so it's
yeah,
I think it's really important for a facilitator or for someone to tell them, it's about the feelings. It's about comparing the feelings and comparing, our stories may look completely different, but
mhm,
what we felt and the isolation we felt and the journey we had, it might be very similar,
yeah,
so looking at the bigger picture, I think, and trying to compare the feelings is more important.
right. It's relating,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
relating. And
absolutely.
I love what you said because it's so honest. It's we pass that stuff on. It's generational. It can
Absolutely.
be a chain event. The
Oh,
things
yeah.
that my parents struggled with could be the things that I struggle with, but it's wearing a different hat.
Yes,
I mean, it looks so
100%.
different. Yeah.
And no matter how much you work on it, when you're a child, the next generation, the child will still react in certain ways, right? And
Mhm.
take on its own stuff. So it's constantly like an ebb and flow of working on it, reacting differently, but also being compassionate with yourself because you're gonna F it up.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
you're gonna F it up. You're gonna flip out at a cashier once in a while. You're gonna do the thing that people
Yeah.
we are humans and we do. And the
Right.
important thing is not to do it often
Right.
and
Right.
to,
But it's to
own
understand that.
it and own it when you do. Like I had an
Mm,
experience in early sobriety where I was so rude to someone. And I literally drove back and I said, I feel I regret it and I'm so sorry. And I wish I didn't treat you that way. And I had brought them cookies or something. And I just didn't know what else to do. But they appreciated that because we all have our days.
yeah, I actually did the same thing. I didn't bring them cookies, but I went back and I went back and apologized for my
And
behavior.
that's all you can do. And I think sometimes taking responsibility for your actions is good enough. I mean, you can't go back in life. It's just,
Mm-mm, yeah,
and it
and
wouldn't serve you and it wouldn't serve them.
exactly, exactly. You said it earlier, it's about awareness.
Mhm.
and I love the owning it part. When you own it, like you claim it, but in therapy for me, a lot of times it'll be like I feel this emotion and it's sitting with me and I'm trying to process it. And I
Mhm.
just want to hang on to it. I want to wrap it up with a bow and I want to keep it
Correct.
right here and I don't want to let it go. But my therapist is like, you don't have to own it. You don't have
Right.
to box it up. You don't have to put it over in the corner anymore. You can feel it. You can let it flow through you. But
Right.
what is it teaching you? And what do you own in that? And what part of that belongs to you? What part of that has nothing to do with you? And that's where therapy and that professional mechanism kind of helps sort you through those different pieces. And that can untangle some of that trauma that has led to the addiction, like a kind of that full circle, which came first, chicken or the egg, which that's a
Yeah. I
whole other
mean,
topic. Yeah.
and if we could answer that question, I'm sure we'd be in like science journals, but we won't. So
Totally.
let's not even try.
Totally. No, I'm not going there. Yeah.
But I think that it's exactly that. And you can't let your mistakes define you. A
Mhm.
lot of I work with a lot of moms, funny enough, and I'm not a mom, but I
Uh,
work with a lot of moms. And they'll be ashamed of something they did. As I'm like, listen, you don't have to ever do it again. Like you did it. It's okay. And it's funny because there's like this common thread between all mothers, like it's guilt. And I'm
yeah.
like, what? Why do you guys have all this guilt? I don't understand it. Like you guys work so hard, do so much,
Oh,
but yet there's this thread of guilt, and it's that human nature, that being hard on ourselves. But we
yeah.
don't have to own those things. We can, as you said, let it flow through you. I think that's
Mhm.
so true, and I think that we have to let those things flow through us. Move your body, it'll flow. Anxiety, sometimes you have to change a thought, move an
Mhm.
action, change. There's a saying.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But you've got to you have to consciously plug in to
Yeah.
do. Yeah, and I think that's where the process of recovery is really helpful. All
Mhm.
the hard pieces get you to that point where one day you wake up and you go, "Oh my God, I have a choice."
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do. You have a choice, but you cannot get to that choice until you strip the clouds out, right? Like strip the drugs and alcohol or whatever addiction it is. And again, with process addictions like eating disorders, it is not black and white, and it is not overnight.
Right, right.
Everyone wants everything overnight, and I think that, like, I'm about to be 9 years sober. First of all, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Second of all, where did the time go? But also, it was this long, excruciating journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm like, sometimes it felt like it was never gonna get there,
Yeah.
and then now I look back, I'm like, I feel like it was yesterday that I moved to Florida, you know?
Yeah, yeah, time, it's really standing still when we're in the thick of that feeling and that despair and that desperation you talked about earlier, but then you look back at it and you're like, "Wow.
Yeah,
Wow." It puts it in perspective.
it really
Yeah.
does.
Aw. Irini, thank you so much for your
Thank you for
vulnerability.
having me.
Yeah, your honesty and your authenticity is really, really what the world needs to hear, and I really am so thankful for you being so open with your process and explaining to us the path that you took, and I'm hoping that others can hear the pieces that are you and that the pieces can be of value in their lives along their path if they're struggling with an addiction, if they're in the middle of recovery, if they have already recovered and they have a low day and they're like, what am I going to do? Or if you're doing great, just a reiteration of, hey, I did the right thing for myself. I
Yeah.
took care of myself.
Yeah, I think thank you for having me. And I think, people you have to be gentler with yourself. We have to be more gentle with ourselves. We are all so hard on ourselves. And
Mhm.
social media and everything have made it even harder because people showcase the best. You're never going to show the fight you have with your husband or your
Mhm.
struggle or you finishing the bottle of wine, right? You're never going to show those pieces. So everyone's showing the happiness and the highs. And so it's important to know that, everyone has their lows,
Mhm. Yeah.
that you're not alone.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. You are not alone. None of us are alone in this. We are
No.
all connected. You have support, and you are important enough to reach out for that support always.
Yeah, and people do wanna help. Believe it or not, it's not a burden. Like, I want to help.
Yeah, it took me a long time to accept that. A
Yeah,
really long time to accept that. And it's still that's one of my triggers that I go back and forth like, I mean, really? I'm burdening someone with this feeling. Like I should or the shoulds, like the should
right,
monster comes up. It's
right.
like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
should be this, I should be that. Well, like I
Yeah,
mean, it's like and thank you for saying that. We're human. Our
but
it's
flip
life.
it, right? Would they be a burden on you if they
Yeah.
came to you with the same thing?
No, not at
No.
all.
And
Yeah,
that's
there's a
what I have
great
to do when I remember, like, when I think I'm being a burden, I'm like, "Would I feel that they were a burden?" No,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah. There's a great, the outdoor therapist, he's on Instagram and he posts reels periodically. And it's the other day he posted something about if we all could interrelate with people like their 6-year-old self is standing beside them, how would you speak to their 6-year-old?
Right.
How would you look at them differently as the 6-year-old version of themselves? I
Yeah.
was like, whoa. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, how would we and think about that for yourself. How would you interrelate with yourself as a 5 or 6-year-old? You know, how would you talk to your niece, your nephew, 5 or 6-year-old? Like, how would you speak to any of that? I
Yeah.
mean, like, why we need to speak to ourselves in a way that is indicative of, positivity, in a way that we understand that we are deserving. We're deserving of wholeness. We're deserving of health and happiness too.
100%. And our body hears us, even when we joke, it hears us. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Love the book. I have it dog-eared and
Yeah.
highlighted. It's
It's
perfect.
really
Body
good,
Keeps
and it's
Score.
scary true.
Yeah. You also said another book earlier, Drop the Rock.
Yeah, but that's like for people in AA. I mean, it's really a kind of a 12 step.
Okay.
I don't know if that would translate to people who haven't done the steps, but I think it's a great book. It's about character defects and how we can, move past them.
Yeah, I totally understand. Always good to hear from the
But a
different.
good book for which helped me love myself more
Okay.
at the beginning of my journey was called Life Loves Me by Louise Hay.
I love Louise Hay.
And this book, the spiritual director of the treatment center I went to gave it to me. And it talks about mirror work and different things and like talking to your younger self. And it's really beautiful. And it really made me start to love myself, like
Yeah.
actually love myself, not fake love myself for Instagram, like actually like look in the mirror in the morning and not point out the things I don't like.
Yeah. Oh my
Which
god.
I still do,
Yeah.
I still do that, but then I'm like catching myself and I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, I think too, it's the catching yourself, knowing that it's probably gonna happen, but the catching yourself, and
Yeah.
that is an amazing read. Life Loves Me. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's really good.
oh,
It's just a lighthearted, like happy book.
yeah, but it's meaningful, and
Yeah.
it's not cheesy, it's very concrete, but
Yeah.
it's digestible.
Yes, absolutely. And it
Mm,
makes you smile.
yep. Oh, everybody go buy it. Life Loves Me. Louise Hay. So good, so good. Irini, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you for
here.
having me. I hope you have an amazing night.
I will. I will. You too. And I can't wait to follow your path again. I also can't wait to work with you on
I
some
know, I'm so
website
excited.
development.
And then you'll have to come on Crosstalk too and talk about your journey.
I will anytime. Would love, love,
I
love
think we're
to spend
gonna
more time.
film again in, the new year.
Oh, I'm there. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay. Yay. All right, Irene, have a great rest of your
Thank
evening.
you so much. You too.
Thanks.
Bye.